My name is Volpe, and today I would like to talk about something more personal. Why I never felt Dutch. People often ask me where I'm from, and the answer should be simple. I was born in the Netherlands to a Russian mother and a Dutch father. But the truth is, I never really felt like either of these nationalities. And I think some of you watching this might actually relate to this. It's quite a common phenomenon, and I want to dig deeper into it. When I was about 3 years old, so basically still a toddler, I was sent to an international school. So this was a private school. It's a school that is intended for mostly expats, people who are only here for a short period of time. Most of my classmates were from either Japan, from Korea, from the United States, Canada. My teacher was American. I remember coming home from school and I would sit around with my toys and I would speak English with these toys. I would really pretend to be a teacher. I was always surrounded by people from all over the world. That was my life until I was 7 years old. When I was about 7, my parents could no longer finance private school, unsurprisingly, because we did not get subsidies. So that's when I had to go to a regular Dutch school, without knowing the language, as well as my peers. And in the beginning, I was trying to get by somehow. I made some friends. I was just starting to make some friends. And then one day, my teacher sat me down and she said, "I have something to tell you. We feel that you would do much better in a special language school." And my dad was behind the idea too, so I got no say in this. I was just sent off to this special language school called the ZOZ. And there I met a lot of people from also all over the world, but people who didn't speak English very well. It was mostly immigrants just trying to integrate into the Dutch culture. And most of them spoke a lot better Dutch than I did at that age because they already spent a long time in the Netherlands and their kids already spoke Dutch with each other. So that left me in a strange place. I was surrounded by all of these kids with immigrant backgrounds, Moroccan families, Surinamese families, Russian, occasionally, families, people who have also come from all over the world. They all had different experiences. I didn't have much of a social circle among them. I have to admit, I was just trying to follow the lessons in Dutch, trying to get by, and that left me kind of strangely excluded. I think this experience of being taken from something that I knew for a long time and put into another kind of different mix shaped who I am as a person deeply at a core. I absorbed a lot of these unspoken social norms, but not those of the Dutch speaking kids, friends groups. It was something totally different. It took me a lot of years to really sit comfortably with what I am, with who I am, and not try to feel like I should be part of something I was never part of growing up. The issues I struggled with most was just trying to understand all of these expressions. Basically, so easy for them to understand, but I never felt like I was part of that, so I would kind of be made fun of. A lot of people, when they hear that my mother is Russian nowadays, they jump to politics, understandably so. When I think about Russia, it is not that, not the political aspect of that country, which my mind goes to. I went there a lot as a kid. I actually lived for 4 years in Russia during the period of 2000 to 2002 and from 2003 to 2004. So I spent some time in a Russian school as well. I went to Moscow twice a year during the summer and during Christmas. I think about what I actually associated the most. I think about my grandparents, for instance. I think about sitting in their apartment on a hot heatwave summer night and the curtains are blowing, sunset. You can see the entire square, the pond where everyone goes out to play, to walk in the evenings, and I would sit there on my computer playing Oblivion or the second Harry Potter installment. I would just feel so immersed in the atmosphere there. I always had like a comfort in going there and not having to think about school. The cartoons, the Soviet cartoons, Stary Pieśnia Główna. I think about Looking Bottom, which they show on TV every single Christmas to this day. I think about the food that my grandmother used to make. the fried fish. One time I had that and I got a bone stuck in my throat, had to be sent to a hospital. Memories, so many things that I absorbed and kept in my mind, in my heart. The humor, my grandmother was always such a lively, such a friendly, such a passionately happy person. She would do community work, she would go gardening, would plant flowers, and I would help her. As a 5-year-old, I would do that together with her, and we would enjoy time out together. She would actually carry my backpack when I went to school. There are a lot of memories that I associate with being in Moscow and Soho and spending time in Russia. I watched the country change in real time, pretty much. I watched it change, and maybe that's the reason I sometimes struggle with the way people talk about countries. Because people talk about nations like they're this one solid thing, when they are in actuality made up of so many different people, so many different things. They're multifaceted. A country is millions of people living different lives. The Russia I experienced as a child felt naively optimistic. This rapid economic growth during the early 2000s really saw to that. Seeing new businesses spring up left and right, everywhere. There was this atmosphere of optimism that the country was possibly going to become like this Eastern version of the United States. There was a lot of comparison going on. As a child, I even remember drawing. I had this drawing I made. It was a futuristic Moscow, let's just say that. And it had, believe it or not, twin towers. I just drew them in there because I felt like just putting that in there. Things felt like they were moving forward. If someone would have asked me back in 2005 if I saw Russia having the kind of future that it has right now, 20 years in the future, I would have said no. I would have said, no way. That can't be right. But unfortunately, we now have a dictatorship that continues to wage war for the 5th year. But I don't want to lose hope. And I don't think you should either. And here's why. If there is one thing I've learned from my Russian family, and that is that Russians are remarkably resilient. Unfortunately, I've seen both my grandparents pass away, and those were not pleasant deaths. They were quite slow, they were quite gradual, and rather painful. And having seen this firsthand, it was hard, but I also saw how resilient they were, how unwilling to give up, unwilling to lose optimism. And I think this adaptability, this resilience extends to the culture as a whole. Why I still refuse to reduce an entire culture, not just Russia, but any culture, into a single moment in history. Because they are so much bigger. Culture is so much bigger than the people who are temporarily governing them. For a long time, I thought that not belonging anywhere was a weakness. But now I think it might be a reason to feel comfortable almost anywhere. And most importantly, comfortable in my own skin. Just take me, put me somewhere else, and I will find my roots. Or comfort in the lack thereof. I value my ability to just shift my perspective and see how others think. Just pretend that I'm someone else for a minute. Try to understand how they are thinking and how they are reasoning. That's one of my favorite things to do. And as one line in one of my favorite songs goes, "'Cause you can travel with your battles, but borders, they were born to break. Borders, they were born to break." Kudos to Client Liaison.